Hi, I'm from Anakbayan San Jose, and we're here today to reject the Marcos Duterte tandem. The Marcos family has had a has caused very unfortunate events in the Philippines for 21 years, and my own family has actually lived through it. As I'm actually a Filipino migrant that moved here a couple of years ago. My mother and my aunts would always tell us about the rations that they had to move through as a family of 10, and also they had really strict curfews, and a lot of areas were very militant with both reactionary groups, separatist groups, and also the armed forces themselves from the state. A lot of extrajudicial killings were done back then, and it's also mirrored by the Duterte administration today as well. I actually lived in Tondo, which is one of the most impoverished cities in the Philippines, and every other week I would walk past a crime scene going to school. I would be in a school uniform just ready to go, and then suddenly it's my neighbor dead on the floor with Soko tape all over the place. And so me and my family have had a very aware image of what both the Marcos and the Duterte regimes have done to the Philippines. At the same time, my father, he's from Ilocos Norte, and so he has a different image of Marcos, which some people do have back home, which is they have brought prosperity and riches to the Philippines. This is due to a huge to a concept of regionalism in the Philippines, which mostly affects Philippine politics. Basically, if a Philippine politician is from a specific region in the Philippines, most of their greatest projects are focused on the regions they're from, as a way of favoritism from where they're from. Marcos has done it, Duterte has done it, and previous presidents have even done it, from how prevalent it is. But in this state, we are here to reject the fact that both Marcos's and Duterte's kin have won the Philippine general elections as president and vice president, and we're doing our best to spread awareness again of the atrocities that these regimes have brought onto our nations, and just let people know that this might happen again with BBM and Sara Duterte.
Hi, so I'm wearing a shirt of Miles Albison. Some of the calls here: free Miles Albison, free Mabinay 6. Back in 2018, Miles Albison, along with other members of Anakbayan Cebu, they had gone to integrate and be with the peasants and farmers in the countryside. However, what happened when they did that is that they were detained by the military and police. They were supposedly that they were terrorists, that they had, and their evidence was there were traces of gunpowder. However, in reality, a lot of it was planted by the police and military. When there were actual test runs, they found no traces of gunpowder or anything like that. And so, it's kind of a common tactic that the military, that the police use to go after activists, to red tag them, to call them terrorists, for them doing the work to uplift the interests and the needs of the most marginalized, especially the peasants and farmers, especially the workers, especially the indigenous people. So even today, Miles Albison is still detained, is still a political prisoner. But even despite that, there's our movement here overseas still calls for the release of these political prisoners. And with with even one of the things that we were actually hoping with the elections, hopefully that Lenny would have won so that some political prisoners could be released or so. But now knowing that Marcos and Duterte are coming in, we know that there will be more attacks on activists, more attacks on our people, more human rights violations, more people being detained and killed. Even under this election period, there were a lot of people who were campaigning, who were against Marcos and Duterte, and they were detained and killed. Even in Mindanao area, there were reports of organizers being gunned down. So we know that there will be a lot of attacks, but despite that, Filipinos in the Philippines, across the world, definitely here in San Jose, we raise the call to to fight for democracy, fight for the release of political prisoners, fight for a genuine society that actually uplifts the needs of the most marginalized.
I think there's an issue with Marcos being elected into the presidency because we know that there's been massive theft that his family has done to the Filipino people, billions of pesos, and there's even an ongoing case in Hawaii to be able to retrieve those stolen pesos, but it still hasn't been answered to. There's really a need for accountability, and I think this election is pretty much a sham because we haven't had real accountability from the Marcos family.